Back to Brian's Beat.
Polly Pocket kicks off hour number 2 of Brian's Beat. How you doing today? Plenty of sunshine, a lot warmer and definitely drier today. But by the way, I was watching a weather forecast and it looks like Tuesday the rains are coming back. Westport 41 degrees, Fall River 40, New Bedford 39. And thanks to SouthCoast Towing, it's the WBSM app in your car and your home. The Brian's Beat quote of the day coming your way thanks to the good folks at Monthly Fee RX. If you're spending less than $20 a month for prescription drugs, great. If not, then our Monthly Fee RX service might be a good option for you. Check for yourself at monthlyfeerx.com. Elizabeth Warren, Senator Warren, gives us our quote of the day, the Brian's Beat quote of the day. How do you think we build a future? I think we build it by investing in our kids and investing in education. Or, Senator Warren, maybe investing in vape sensors for high school bathrooms. How do you feel about that? I bet you think that's a great idea. Anybody else lockstep with the idea? If you can't get through, and I understand we're having some phone problems right now, you can always use the WBSM app and send an app chat. You can do it that way. Otherwise, I'm here for you. Let me go back to this story because I think, well, I know not everybody can hear every minute of every show that I do or that any of the hosts at the station do. So, I was reading in Dartmouth Week. I live in Dartmouth, and Dartmouth Week is a weekly paper that comes out. And I picked it up yesterday, and there was a story, front page, vaping detectors installed at high school. And let me tell you, listening to me is the counterpoint, the counterbalance to the story that's in Dartmouth Week. There is not one person that the author, Justice Burnagh, B-U-R-N-A-U-G-H, Justice Burnagh, every person that he talked to, there was at least one student. There was the principal. There was some athletic health coordinator. There was the principal and superintendent of the schools. If I already said one of them already, I'm sorry for repeating it. Everybody seemed to be on the side of these monitors. Not one person. My guess is there would have been a student or two or three, and they don't have to be vaping students, that would have disagreed. But that person did not make this particular article. My guess is that there's somebody on the staff of the school that believes that. Maybe somebody on the school committee may believe that these vape monitors aren't good. Select board, taxpayers, everybody. There was just one opinion. One opinion. And the opinion is this is the way it's got to be. Now, I hear similar complaints when we talk about the Washington Press Corps, Washington, D.C. Press Corps. But it starts in the little markets. And it's very interesting because my town, Dartmouth, has elections on Tuesday. And there will be a new member to the school committee elected because one of the members, in fact, the former chairperson of the school committee, decided not to run for re-election. Shannon Jenkins is her name, and she was at the forefront of getting rid of the Dartmouth Indian logo. I bring that back up because not only is there a story about vaping detectors installed at Dartmouth High School, but it turns out, and I knew this was going to happen, I didn't know exactly when, but the legislature is taking up a proposal that will override the vote of the Dartmouth people to keep the Indian logo intact. And I knew it was going to go down this particular road. I was forewarned by the former head of the New Bedford branch of the NAACP. He said, look, this isn't the final piece right here. And I said, what did you mean? He goes, the legislature still has a say over it. And he's right. If they can't win in the individual cities and towns, they will override what we the people want. And I say we the people, in this particular case, I was one of those that voted to keep the Indian logo in place. Very, 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 very interesting here. So, vaping detectors. And now I got a call from somebody who works in New Bedford schools. He let me know that this is a really big issue. So big in New Bedford that they too are going to be putting these sensors in the bathrooms. He said he loves my idea of having humans monitor, but he said they're short people. Short 25 people. I think you might be short 25 people, but still you're making do. I could really get into this right now, but I don't think it's the time or place. But I think over the years, and I'm not just saying let's go back to the year 2000. I'm going to say let's go back to the 1990s, the 1980s, and I dare say probably the 1970s. Year in and year out, school budgets not only increased because of a cost of living increase, but they added more people and changed bus routes, when and where you pick up kids. The school district, superintendents, school committees have made the schools the focal point of a community. And I think there's a huge problem with that, because when the schools become the focal point, what happens to the family? And please, I understand that there are some kids in broken families. I get it. But the numbers are relatively low. And when I say relatively low, more than 90% of kids come from good single parent or dual parent families. More than 90%. And for a real small minority, the school needs to be the focal point. Remember when schools were supposed to be about learning the ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and things that go along with that? I'm not against athletic programs, but athletic programs are extracurricular. Choir, glee club, chess club. Those are extracurriculars. But those extracurriculars are used to draw you into the school. They're always looking for a magnet to drag you, the steel, into their black widow nest. And once they got you, then they remind you that, well, the schools are free. The schools aren't free, but you believe they're free. And you become a part of that whole game. And then the next thing you know, if your child is in a sport or some other extracurricular, and you hear about cuts happening to that sport or extracurricular, you're out there at the next school committee meeting complaining, you can't cut this program. My Johnny is, my Jane is. That's what happens. Transportation is one of the largest pieces to a school budget. Transportation. Whether you live in a city like New Bedford or Fall River, or you live in a town like Dartmouth, or a regional community like Rochester, you've got a whole bunch of buses going in mega directions. Many of these buses are fairly empty. Have you noticed? Yeah. And yet, especially when it comes to high school kids, used to be you lived more than 2 miles away, you got a bus. Now it's less than that. I don't make up the rules. I know walking can be a pain. Or having a parent drop you off. But we are talking about our kids, aren't we? Sacrifices have to be made. Or as we see here, bringing it down to the world of vape, the schools will interject. They will tell you, we're going to put monitor sensors in the bathrooms. Let artificial intelligence tell us when somebody is vaping, how long they're vaping for, and how much smoke has accumulated in each and every bathroom that is being monitored. How much is the cost? Relatively inexpensive when you think about how much diesel fuel is used to power just one boiler at a school during the wintertime. But going back to the story, the folks at Dartmouth High School have no idea how bad vaping is. So they're putting the sensors in instead of using humans to, figure out how bad is it really? Is it that bad that even a human can't stand in there? Is that human coming back and telling the principal or assistant principal or the superintendent, it is so bad that we should get sensors? No, they're going out and they're getting sensors right now that get triggered when somebody, I want to say lights up a vape. I know that's not true, but, triggers the vaping mechanism. And then it's going to measure the vapor in the air. And then what happens after monitoring through artificial intelligence, i.e. the sensor? Well, couple of things. It could mean if it's widespread now, remember if it's widespread, it could mean that the health curriculum has to be changed at the school. It could mean that a suspension or detention will be put on the kid. Now, there was a day that if you got caught smoking cigarettes in school, you got a slap on the hand. Now, I would think that you do get some type of detention. But a suspension, only if that suspension is in-school suspension. But let's think about it. When those detentions happen, does the kid quit smoking or quit vaping? My guess is they don't. So the principal over at Dartmouth High says, well, we are going to give a reflective assignment on the dangers of vaping. I will not vape in the school bathroom ever again. Write that 200 times. There's a reflective assignment. Or maybe it's, maybe it's two or three, I was going to say 2 or 3 paragraphs, or maybe 2 or 3 pages of a report on the dangers of vaping. You think it works? Yeah, I don't either. But that's the power that the school can dole out. And Principal Shea says we might have to take it farther than a detention or suspension. We might have to go down the road of bringing in the medical side on the issue. Next thing you know, that could be the way that Dartmouth schools brings in their own little student health center. And then, of course, the almighty Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association handbook. The handbook prohibits students from vaping. If you play a sport, you can't vape. Now imagine this for a second. If you're on the chess team, that's not part of the MIAA. If a person on the chess team gets caught vaping, are they suspended from chess tournaments? Probably not. In fact, I'm willing to guess, unless that kid is suspended from school or even in-school suspension, if she or he didn't have a tournament that day, they wouldn't have to worry about it. They'd be back the next day. But if you play athletics on the intercollegiate level in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you could be out for 25% of the games for that particular season, which I believe is overkill. Do I believe that vaping can be hazardous to your health? Sure. Especially since we don't always know what's going in the vape. My friend said that in the New Bedford schools, they're finding THC, which to me says somebody's mixing marijuana with whatever it is that they're vaping. Or maybe it's just the THC fluid. And the kids have to be, I say the kids, I don't know how many kids. They have to be taken out, some on a stretcher, some on a gurney, some taken to the hospital. How many? What is some? If you're telling me 2, 3 for the school year, that's not many. I would say if you're telling me 10, that's still not many. You don't want any, but let's not, again, tip that cart in the wrong direction. So I have reached out to a couple of folks. I did reach out to Chris Cotter to see if they would like to comment. He, they, Ross Grace Jr. is the other from the New Bedford School Committee, to see if they'd like to comment on this issue. Let's see if those phone lines are working now. 508-996-0500 for Brian's Beat. Yeah, I know people are trying to call in on that line, and I'm so sorry. At any rate, this topic, well, we might have to get into it again next week. If they're still vaping, I think they'll still be vaping at the high school. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Good morning.
Hey, George Jetson. What's up?
Oh, just fine. I'm looking at the vapes coming from my Jetson mobile.
You're the opposite of George Jetson. He's got all this technology. You can't get the phone to ring. So, I don't know much about the vaping thing. I mean, I'm a million years out of high school, but maybe what they should do is they should say, if you're caught vaping, we're going to take you off the list of paying back your college loans. How about that?
But they're in high school.
I know, but I'm joking because as of last night, Biden is trying another round of trying to get college loans paid off so that he can buy student votes.
Yeah, he's going to have to keep trying.
Yeah, well, he'll find a way because they'll cut the checks and do it, and then they'll say, well, they'll sue him or whatever they'll do. But I think he's doing anything he can to buy votes these days, I guess. So,
yeah, I look, it's going to be a tough fight, and I don't know. One poll shows that he got 3 or 4 points out of the speech 3 or 4 weeks ago, State of the Union address. But I think that's gone down, and now he's just authorized more money to go over to Israel to help in their fight against the Gazans, the Palestinians.
Right.
I don't know how that's going to play for him.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I honestly don't think he's really making these decisions anyway. I think it's a combination of the fact that half of his staff is from the old Obama regime, and the other half of his staff is from Hillary Clinton's regime. Hillary Clinton, a couple of weeks ago, was saying that she's talking to the White House on a regular basis. So I'm pretty sure that between Hillary and Barack, they're dictating policy, and he's just signing whatever people put in front of him at this point and keeping him on the Adderall so that he can have a speech once in a while. I mean, when he did that speech, I mean, there's no question he probably would pick up a couple of points of confidence because he was talking fast and sounded good and all that. But have you ever in the last 3 years heard him speak like that? It was very odd. It was,
I mean, it was like he was charged for the event.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But, I don't know about the vaping thing. I think that the penalties seem to be excessive, but, these days, I mean, whether I don't know who makes all these decisions and who puts these draconian measures down, but I don't know. Vaping is here and it's probably going to stay. So
vaping is going to stay. I think you have to be 21 in the Commonwealth to vape.
Yeah.
But kids are they're doing it in high school. You keep on coming up with the rules, and then what you're going to do is keep on having kids break the rules.
Right. I was happened to be watching a Leave It to Beaver the other day. It was pretty funny when you contrast Leave It to Beaver, and they were talking about Beaver going to school with this sweatshirt on that had an ogre on the front with three eyes or four eyes, and there was this whole discussion about, representing the family and how, it's just a distraction in the class, and the kids won't be able to study, and the teacher won't be able to do their job. And I was laughing. I'm like, where did this come from? Can you imagine playing this on primetime TV? People would be like, that's got to be an AI produced program, because it's now it's just the opposite. It's like how much can you be a distraction, and so you don't have to do anything. Get 3 or 4 years, and there you go.
Well, it's funny how you say it like that. Certainly, the outer clothing that one wears, give or take the length of a dress or something like that, is you can pretty much do whatever you want. But as far as your behavior, things have drastically changed. When we were in school, you could bully, and people grew up from the bullying.
Right.
But the dress codes were changing at that particular time.
Well, the schools that seem to have it together, they actually go to uniforms, and not that that's the answer, but there are definitely some success stories out there, but they've gone back to, family by family and student by student. I mean, they all work under the same guidelines. It's not a free for all. So we'll see. Anyway, well, I hope you get more calls. Good
luck with the one line that seemed to work.
There you go.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Brian.
I appreciate it. Oh, man. Yeah, it's tough. If you are just now tuning in, a little problem with the phones, but we also have the app chat. All you have to do is download the WBSM app if you don't already have it. And then you can text message me, and we can communicate that way. If you're just tuning in, major, I don't know, it's becoming major. I didn't realize it was going to be anywhere near what it has become. Dartmouth High School has instituted sensors to detect if someone, male or female, is vaping in the boys' or girls' room. And they're doing that not knowing how bad the problem is. And so these sensors can detect when someone starts to vape, how much vape odor or smoke, whatever it is. I see when people are vaping that smoke does come out. And how much of that cloud, let's call it a cloud, is in the air. I heard from somebody with New Bedford schools, and he says, vaping's a big problem. It's unbelievable. We've got kids vaping all over the place in New Bedford, and some have to be carted off to the hospital. Sometimes there's THC in these vape mechanisms. I don't doubt it. Not condoning it. But to what length do schools go to try to keep, let's say, the bathroom safe? And you might be short 25 people. This person told me that New Bedford schools are short 25 people, so they don't have the person power to have someone physically monitor the restrooms at the school. And I'm saying, let's go back to the drawing board. Let's get the Etch-a-Sketch out and figure this out. When a teacher has a break between classes, sometimes it's called prep time. Well, maybe at the beginning of that prep time, the teacher monitors the bathrooms until the kids hear that bell so they go to the next class. Then the teacher can go back to the prep time. Oh, I know you might have lost 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes. But the point is, you're able to, if you're there, those kids aren't going to vape. Now, does that stop kids from vaping when they leave the school? No. But the idea here is to keep them from vaping in school. You're not going to have a watchful eye over them everywhere they go. The MIAA, the Massachusetts Interscholastic Athletic Association, they've got other rules when it comes to vaping. And what they have done is they've written in their handbook, that the first-time offender who gets caught vaping is off the sports team, suspended from 25% of the games that season. So let's say the basketball team has 16 games. That means 4 games you are suspended for. Football season, you get caught vaping. Football has, 10 games? So what would 25%? That'd be 2.5 games? Be kind of hard to miss half a game. But I'm sure they can figure it out. So you're going to miss half a game, you're going to miss half that game. Now you can go back. Does that stop the kid from vaping? Oh, I know. Well, if we penalize them enough, they're going to quit. How many times have you heard that? Maybe in your own life. And did you quit? How many times when you were a kid and you were smoking cigarettes and your parents said, if you smoke, we're not going to let you eat dinner. We're not going to let you in the house. Did you quit? And I hear that vaping is addictive. There's nicotine in that vape. So if it's addictive, how is suspending the kid from a sports, from a sports team for 25% of the games, how is that going to work? Principal Shea says suspension and detention isn't going to do it. Isn't going to deter the student from the behavior. Vaping is a behavior. We need to get the medical side on it. And we're going to strap the kid down. Make sure those arms can't swing at you. And what are we going to do? Shoot them up with something? This is ridiculous. Absolutely crazy. At any rate, that's the plan of attack. I don't know where it's going to go from there. 508. Why am I giving out the phone number when you can't get through? Welcome back. I have heard from a couple of New Bedford School Committee members. Ross Grace Jr. says they shouldn't, speaking of vaping, they shouldn't be allowed in our buildings, and policy for consequences should follow for breaking any rule or policy that allows unsafe and distracting contraband in our buildings. Yeah, I hear you. I'm not disagreeing with that. But to what extent do you go to try to stop it? Do you bring in the artificial intelligence to to monitor what's going on in the restrooms instead of using human beings who might have to take how much time does a student get from first period to second period to third period at the high school level? You mean to tell me that a teacher, a cafeteria worker, a guidance counselor, a principal or assistant principal, they can't monitor the bathrooms during a little break in time to make sure nobody is vaping? Instead, they have to go out and get these sensors to monitor how much vape is in the air, how often it's happening. I mean, at some particular point, it's overkill. Not only that, how about how draconian it becomes if you get caught vaping in school? What should we do? Do we suspend a kid for vaping in school, vaping in a bathroom? Or do we call the parents in and say, look, Jane got caught vaping. We have a strict policy against it. We'd like to see that this gets handled at home as opposed to Jane missing classroom time or sports time. Now, I know it sounds kind and gentle to say it like that. But once again, the school has to protect other kids, and I get it. You don't want them vaping I get it. You don't want them vaping in the bathroom. But suspension? Calling in a medical team? Really? Now, let's take this to what I'm considering the next logical step. At what particular time did you, the parent, sign on the dotted line that says that if your kid is caught vaping in school, that the school has the right to call in medical people to check out your child or children? At what particular time did you sign that right away? But in Dartmouth, according to Principal Shea, it could happen. He doesn't believe that just a detention or suspension can deter students from the behavior. And he's probably right. We need to get the medical side on it. Does that mean the school nurse? Or are you going to call in the doctors? Now, I know I'm making snide comments here, but that's what it's coming down to. That's what it's coming down to. The school is fighting fire with what? A torch. It's not right. I agree that the vaping part is not right, but the punishment doesn't fit the crime. Not only that, it doesn't deter the crime. And it could be that the whole student handbook has to be rewritten because a few kids vape. And when I say a few kids, I don't know how many students go to Dartmouth High School, but my guess is that less than a third of the student body vapes. I'm even willing to bet less than a fifth of the student body vapes. And I might be going out on a limb, but I would say less than an eighth of the student body vapes. What are we doing here? And then you know what's going to happen when things become too restrictive? Then you're going to see fewer of those kids who may be good students in the classroom, may be good athletes on the field, may be good at choir or the drama club or the chess club, whatever the case may be. They may go to another school. In fact, I was thinking very hard about it earlier this week. A friend of mine tried to persuade me against it. But the more that I see this in my own town, Dartmouth, the more that I want to back up. Maybe it's time that I show students and parents how to drop out of school to get a better life. I hope you heard both of that. Drop out to get a better life. Because there are kids out there doing it. And there are parents that are supporting their kids that do it. Because they're fed up with the crap that's going on. Today we're talking about vaping. It wasn't too long ago we were talking about the mask mandates and the vaccine mandates. It's just getting to the point where school is no fun anymore. But then how much fun was school supposed to be in the first place? Back in the late 1800s, beginning of the 1900s, did kids go to school to have fun? Or did they go to school to learn the ABCs, to learn the 1, 2, 3s? To get a good life. If everybody goes to school and everybody gets anywhere from a 75 to a 92, what makes anyone better than the next? Then they all go out into the job market. Well, we used to send you to school to get a leg up on others. Well, now we're going to keep kids home from school so they can get a leg up on others. We'll talk about that at another time, how to actually make that work, but it is working. And it sure beats having to worry about what some handbook or some health curriculum is saying about vaping. Right? Is vaping good? No, I don't vape. Used to smoke cigarettes. None of the policies that were instituted about cigarettes back in the 70s made me stop. I stopped because I wanted to stop. Do you think kids are going to stop vape? A kid misses 4 games from the basketball season or 2.5 games from the football season or something similar to the soccer season, the water polo season. That can be damaging, but the negative effects could be larger than the positive. I mean, is the Interscholastic Athletic Association thinking that the kid is going to quit vaping because she or he got caught? Maybe. And my guess is they will trot out each and every student that is their success story. But what percentage? I don't even know how many kids have been caught vaping. And here's another thing. If a coach catches you vaping, do you think that coach is automatically going to turn you into the MIAA? Let's say you're a good player. Does the coach want to lose that player? The coach might suspend you for a game. But probably not for 40 games or 4 games, not 40. So I think this is all out of whack. I could be wrong. Won't be the first time, won't be the last, but I'm going to stand by it. Definitely going to stand by it. Ken Pittman's going to carry you for the remainder of the morning. You have yourselves an excellent weekend. Have a good Easter. Go out Easter egg hunting. Enjoy the weather while you can, because it's my understanding rain